This is the revolution. This is our time to evolve. This is our time to come together, our time to really look at how powerful we are.
When it comes to safety and a person's health, the fact is that every single person has their own health profile. They have their own genetic profile.
Kids couldn't go do their well baby checks and wellness checks. So in SIDS alone, so sudden infant death syndrome, dramatically dropped by 30% because kids weren't being vaccinated.
I suggest adopting that open hand policy for greater peace and trust. And it doesn't mean we won't suffer, but we may suffer less from anxiety and worry and fear.
We've become obsessed with the effects. We have been obsessed with symptoms. And maybe it's time to look at things differently. Maybe it's time to make different choices. It's Dr. Devin. We are winding down one wild and crazy year and gearing up for, well, we're not quite sure, but when I beg the question, what is to be, I have to tap in and tune in to some of the great visionaries that my life has introduced me to. And there is no one that tops that list besides Dr. Lona Cook. So Dr. Lona, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, Kevin, thank you.
She is pure magic. Many of you have seen her at the Big Idea and in other conversations that I've had or at the different chiropractic events that we've done. Dr. Lona is, a woman of many hats, mother, wife, chiropractor, leader, author, a visionary starting chiropractic in the school system. She serves her state board. And when having her here saying, Dr. Lona, take us to that thing. What's the thing that you wish? Because, right, if they knew what we knew, they do what we do. We all have this medicine inside of us. What's the big premise or big idea you wish that more people knew or understood?
Yeah, I think there's a way to keep it much more simple than we make it. And I was having a conversation with a mentor of mine this morning, Dr. Jay LaGuardia, and we were just doing what you and I do, where we're conversating about what's going on in the world and chatting and thinking about, our role and how we serve others and serve ourselves at the same time. And he said, if you're someone without faith right now, it's really challenging. Mm-hmm. And he didn't mean that in a religious sense necessarily. And I think that would be the thing that I feel called to share right now, is this faith in something bigger than you. And it does not have to be taken in a context of religion, because if you're like me, that has been off-putting at times. But I mean, faith that, in chiropractic, we call it the major premise, that there's intelligence in everything. And that is the magic. It's not part of the magic. It is the magic. But until you bear witness to it and allow yourself to look for it, which I promise you it's there, whether you're paying attention or not, it's there in what we label good, bad, and otherwise, that magic is where you begin to have faith. Faith that you aren't alone, faith that there is something working behind the scenes, faith that you are part of this macrocosm, but you're just a small part of it. And that faith that you don't have to have all the answers, and faith that you can trust when you're tired to just let go for a little bit. This year has definitely doubled down on those of us who really do have faith that there are bigger things happening. We can see a lot of things that cause ripples of fear, and we all have different fears right now, and some of us have similar fears. And yet, if you have faith, you realize there's something else coming after this. When you get squeezed, there's always an expansion afterwards. And Devin, you and I were talking before this about, I see birth, right? Like when you birth a child and you recognize that two cells created this beautiful baby. I just had a baby this year. It's like that alone, to not have faith after you've seen something like that. You are this miracle. you can create life. Like, how can there not be so much bigger happening? And so that is where I find my root. And I wish people could just, pause for a minute and think about some of those aspects of what has gotten us to this point, the sheer miracle of life, that there is faith in that. And if we can trust that, then I think it allows us to trust other things, to not have to have all the answers, to not have to let fear capsize our mind all the time. And certainly out in the world right now with, the pandemic messaging, man, we've lost that root. We have lost that root. And I think we've really lost the root also of that we are part of this bigger thing. Birth is 100%. Death is 100%. We don't talk about that enough. That's something I'd like to continue to have conversations around, because the fear goes away when you start to honor that we are all part of, again, this 100% of birth and 100% of death, and we're not pulling all the strings.
No, nor could we.
Mm-hmm.
I think we so badly yearn to understand the bigness of life without allowing it to just be miraculous and be a part of the miracle and be in the now and actually in it. So when we talk big ideas, take us into the actions or the way that you get to that root, or ways that you nourish that within you and how you've cultivated. Because I'm sure there was a point in life where you didn't operate from that premise. Or where if this pandemic would have hit you pre getting this way of life, or being able to see it this way, or have that kind of faith, to the people that are kind of grappling for faith and going, gosh, Dr. Lona, I don't know. Like, have you seen 2020? How do you trust? Like, what are some actionable ways that could nourish that in them?
It's great. First, I would get curious about your life. I would really spend some time in introspection. I think for most of us, someone can say things to us. Someone can directly slap us on the, the face or the hand or whatever, and try and say, hey, it's this way. And until we're ready to have some introspection and awareness, we're not going to get it. And I know that was true for me. So I think we all have wake up calls, and some of them we heed and some of them we just let, go by the wayside. The cool thing is, once you have faith that they're coming to you, you can get better at receiving them. So I would get curious about your life. The parts that feel really rocky in particular are generally good places to pay attention. And I say that because, usually in my past experience, when I would get squeezed by something, and that could be like my relationship with my husband, or prior to being married, it was in real personal relationships, or it might be something that happens in your finances over and over again. Or, I've had a really challenging last 6 years with my mom, and her health and the grieving process. And those are times where if you can sit and just take a bird's eye view for even a moment and say, why is this happening? What is it offering me? What is possibly happening here that I'm not seeing, or could be a blessing here? I guarantee there's other perspectives than just the one that you're most knee-jerk go into. And I think what happens there is we generally, when we do that, when we get above it for a second, we can start to see like these currents of things that are circling around us that are being offered to us, that if we're so tight to it or we're so close to it, we miss. And as we start to wake up to just more perspectives in general, or different ways of viewing something, or maybe a different way to take an action, that's when the miracles start to creep in. And that's the shift. And, I'm talking to the miracle lady. But the shifts are the perspective changes. And when you can get a different perspective, especially when you're first starting to wake up to things, man, that changes everything. For me, it was, I got held up at gunpoint in Costa Rica like 11 years ago, 12 years ago. And that was, I believe, the universe giving me a pretty swift kick at that point that life needed to change. I was a bulldozer. I pushed my way through everything, and I was good at doing that. but I didn't see all the like train wreckage that I left in my wake some of the time. And I didn't see that right away. But what that experience did is it caused me to pause. And for most of us, that's the first step. So if you're asking what the first step is, it's pause, and then it's introspection, I believe.
And as you raise children this time, right? Like, so if I shift and we look at moms particularly, and it's not that dads don't have these feels, you just think we feel in different ways sometimes. As I've like worked on my mama bears this year, like you can feel it on them, right? The anger, the fear, the sadness, the exhaustion, you know, and one of our roles is to protect our pack, right? And so how has this year shifted you as a mom? Or what have you learned, and how does this premise serve you from a motherhood parenting standpoint?
Yeah, great question. Well, first of all, I know by no means do I pretend to have it all figured out. And there's definitely points, you know, I had Max in July, and I had a really beautiful summer because I live on a lake and I got to float in the water quite a bit while I was pregnant with my 5-year-old. So in those times I felt really like connected and okay. But then I'd go and read stuff or get my own fear levels heightened by paying attention to medical freedom things that really bother me right now. And, you know, I can easily get myself worked up. And it was right before Max's birth that I realized, like, man, this baby's not coming. And he's not coming because I'm in this like heightened fear place. I'm going there too often. You know, I felt like I had to keep one eye over here and one eye on other things. And so I think offering yourself grace, you know, we don't have to do it all at once. And as we know ourselves better, we can know when you have the bandwidth to maybe speak up more or to demonstrate something for our kids because of what needs to happen in the world right now. And there's other times when just being home and snuggling and being with your babies is the perfect thing right now. So I think this year has taught me a little more awareness on when is it time to speak up because I have kids right now, and when is it time to just be present with my babes. I will say that I also use this thought process a lot, and maybe this sounds dark, but you know, I do fear at times for what's happening and what it's going to mean for future generations. And yet there is this part of me that trusts that like the source and the system is moving us in an expansive place. Like we don't go backwards in evolution. I don't believe that. Our consciousness is evolving. So I hold tight to that belief because I really, truly, in the depths of me, feel like whatever we're moving through right now is going to lead to better things. I don't know if that's in this lifetime or not. You know, I don't know what's happening, but I truly believe what is happening is shifting some of these old structures that need to fall, that aren't good for humanity. And so I believe that I want to be part of creating that new. And I have birthing children in right now who are part of creating that new. And so I just look at them like they chose to come in now too. And that helps me feel a lot more like it's not under my control to keep everyone safe all the time, which helps me feel a little less like I gotta, you know,
Finicky.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't have to white knuckle this right now. I got someone I can lean on, you know.
And the, you know, Khalil Gibran's the prophet when he says, "Your children are not your children," right? We're just the bow, and it feels heavy to be the bow right now, and yet, like, you can apply how big is my faith that these powerful beyond measure little beings that were birthed through me, like I trust them. I trust that they'll find their footing, and that I need to do my part, but I also need to allow whatever lessons they're supposed to, like what's happening right now is being stitched into them for the type of adults they'll one day be. And so to dictate their experience, you know, allowing that evolution and trusting that process. So final question, big one, right? What's 2021? What do you see?
Oh, you know, here's an interesting thing. This is not my normal baseline. My normal baseline is like the goal setter and the like wanting to plan and prepare. And I like trying to get up here and think. Think is the key word. I like to think. And right now, there is a part of me, and don't get me wrong, I'm still doing my thinking and I'm still writing, but there is a good chunk of me that is like so in relationship with the fact that I don't have control of this. I have control to be in the moment and to let it happen through me, that I feel more okay with than I ever have, just this letting go. And I don't mean letting go and just wildly letting whatever happen. I mean like just being grounded and letting it move through. So 2021, I don't have a pulse on. If I'm all being fully transparent on, I feel like there's some things I would like to birth into 2021. And more than anything, I want to stay rooted into this faith that I have so that I can be good for me, first and foremost, be good for my family, my community we serve. And then if I'm ready to ripple out further than that, then it can come through me. And I think that's what many of us are feeling for 2021, is that people need to get safe again. And they get safe a lot of times by being in community with other people who they trust and they can listen to, and you feel that trust and that truth in your heart center. Mm-hmm. And I think we're all getting shook to wake back up to that.
Yeah. I mean, we've read Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and, you know, talking about the being in the now, mm-hmm. right? And I think now here we are. Like, I think that this experience has gifted the beauty of what that really means. And I love that, you know, you say the word allow, and this drive, this achieve, this do checklist, like success, you know, mentality that has served us very well. Mm-hmm. The pause in that, I think, has let a lot of people catch their breath. Mm-hmm. I think the magic and the artistry that will come on the other side is going to take our breaths away. I mean, I think it allowed us to root back down in what matters and connect in ourselves and self-care and the importance of health. I mean, that could be a whole nother conversation around how we got here in the first place, that we could be victim of this kind of circumstance versus victor of, you know, master of my fate because I make the decisions to be so. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think we'll leave this one here and ... to maybe the halfway point of the year to pick up and go, whoa, like this is, that's what I love about getting to do these, is they turn into this time capsule of what we're in, because the pace. And I remember talking to you about this at the end of last year of like, you know, of Lisa and the pace, and I thought that was fast. And now, like, I mean, the acceleration, I mean, big shifts, big worldwide shifts are happening at a pace we can't even.
Right. And that's part of why I feel like, okay, let's just get rooted and then let it, if I'm safe, I can let it out. Right. And if I'm up here trying to control it, it's like, it's not going to come through. And I almost feel like you're the queen of saying this, but the magic that's going to happen, like, is not going to come from up here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It can't. And I think this was yesterday. And tomorrow. So, I mean, this is a great time to be a hippie who loves colors and chakras and the return. And we said this at the end of conversation we just shared of like, this is, to me, this is us coming home. And what a wild time to be here on planet Earth, to return to, you know, simple, to root back at where we started. As you said, like, let's get simple again. And fall in love with the day-to-day. So thank you for your heart and your perspective and your vision. And we'll check in around June or July and see where we're at then. But thank you, as always, Dr. Lona.
My pleasure. Thank you.